Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I'll take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Just make sure you put your name and your outlet in the Zoom chat with your question, of course. It is Monday, November 3rd, and today marks 759 days since Hamas invaded our southern border, massacred our communities, and continues to hold our hostages until this very day. Over the last few days, some of our families have received the remains of their loved ones from captivity and began the burial process, and others are just beginning the painful process today. The gut-wrenching circle is starting to close for some of our hostage families, but 8 more families are waiting for an opportunity to do the same. This morning, the remains of 3 of our hostages, Colonel Asaf Hamami, Captain Omer Nutra, and Staff Sergeant Oz Daniel, were identified. Before leaving the Gaza Strip, IDF commanders held a ceremony honoring them and their final return home for a dignified Jewish burial. All 3 of these men are heroes, and they faced numerous terrorists on October 7th, battling and fighting them off and putting their lives on the line for the State of Israel and its citizens. Colonel Hamami was appointed commander of the Southern Brigade of the Gaza Division in 2022 and held the position with utmost pride and responsibility. On October 7th, he was killed in battle at Kibbutz Nirim, with his body kidnapped alongside his fellow troops. He leaves behind his wife Sapir and his 3 young children. He was 40 years old when he was murdered and kidnapped, and Prime Minister Netanyahu met his family back in August and spoke with them last night after his remains were released from captivity. Asaf's mother thanked the IDF soldiers, security forces, and the Prime Minister last night for returning her son. Captain Omer Nutra was born and raised on Long Island in New York and was an American-Israeli citizen. Nutra came to Israel and volunteered to enlist as a lone soldier in the Armed Corps. Captain Nutra soon rose to a command position and completed officer training and became a tank platoon commander. He was described as someone who deeply loved everyone and the State of Israel. He even inspired other lone soldiers to enlist in the IDF. On the morning of October 7th, Omer was fatally wounded and then kidnapped while fighting off terrorists on the border, alongside his team, including Staff Sergeant Oz Daniel. He is survived by his parents and brother. He was 21 years old when he was murdered and kidnapped. Staff Sergeant Oz Daniel was a fighter in the 77th Battalion of the Sar Brigade from the Golan. On the morning of October 7th, he went out to fight alongside his tank crew, and after hours of battling against dozens of terrorists, he was kidnapped alive alongside his crew, and he chose to fight Hamas terrorists until his final moment alive. He even attempted to steal a grenade from one of the terrorists, which is when he was murdered. He is survived by his parents and twin sister. He was only 19 years old when he was murdered and kidnapped. The Prime Minister sent his condolences and embraced each family during this extremely difficult time. He's also expected to speak with the families of Omer Nutra and Oz Daniel later today. Today marks exactly 3 weeks, 21 days, since our 20 living hostages returned home to their families, and the start of Hamas's violations under the ceasefire plan, as they have not fulfilled their side of the agreement to release all of our hostages in the initial 72-hour window. Our remaining 8 hostages must return home. Israel's patience is not inexhaustible with this terrorist organization. Hamas knows where the remains of our 8 hostages are located, and we know this based on precise intelligence and evidence. While the terror organization continues to hunt down Palestinians, their own people inside of the Gaza Strip, they continue to violate the agreement. On Sunday, the IDF identified a terrorist who crossed the yellow line and advanced towards IDF soldiers in northern Gaza, posing an immediate threat to them. In accordance with the ceasefire agreement, the IDF eliminated the terrorist approaching them. And earlier today, the IDF identified terrorists who crossed the yellow line again and advanced towards our troops in southern Gaza, posing an immediate threat. The IDF responded from the air and on the ground and struck the terrorists to remove the imminent threat. As Israel continues to uphold its side of the agreement and bring in hundreds of trucks of aid on a daily basis into Gaza, again, Hamas shows their true colors by derailing humanitarian aid meant for their own people. CENTCOM, who is working directly with the IDF, released drone footage of terrorists looting an aid truck traveling as part of a humanitarian convoy, delivering assistance from international partners to northern Khan Yunis. Hamas terrorists attacked the driver and stole the aid truck. I can share with you today, Prime Minister Netanyahu also had a very positive phone call conversation yesterday evening around 6:30 Israel time with the Chancellor of Germany. The Chancellor complimented the Prime Minister on his leadership and reiterated the strong alliance between Israel and Germany. I will now take a few questions. First question from Adam Parsons of Sky News. Is Prime Minister Netanyahu now in favor of an automatic death penalty for those convicted of terrorist murders? And if so, can you clarify what he believes defines a terrorist murder and whether Israeli citizens should also face justice if found of similar crimes? So what I can share with you specifically on this matter, Adam, is in terms of the death penalty bill, it's known that the Prime Minister supports this, of course, as a punishment after a fair trial takes place in our judicial system. Anyone that harms the state of Israel and its citizens will face consequences. Of course, this is also only a bill right now in the Knesset. Joel Pollack from California Post. Could you kindly explain a few basic facts about the Stay Taiman video? Did it purport to show sexual abuse or some other form of abuse? Was it faked or is it real footage? Was it leaked with the intention of prompting public criticism or some other action? So in terms of that, I will refer you to the Prime Minister's remarks that he made yesterday before his government meeting. This is Natalie Meltzer from the Associated Press. Can you confirm that former Chief Military Prosecutor Colonel Matan Solomesh was also arrested overnight? I've seen those reports. I don't have anything to share at this time. Itai Stern from NPR. Can you please share some information about how Israel is about to deal with the aid looting in Gaza? And also what Israel is about to do with the Hamas terrorists that are still in the area of the Yellow Line? So what we've continued to say, that any terrorist that crosses into the IDF part of Gaza, crossing over that yellow line, of course, that's a violation. As you've seen over the last few days, that any terrorist who decides to do that poses an immediate threat to our IDF soldiers. And under the ceasefire agreement, our soldiers are allowed to act to defend themselves. And that will continue to take place if Hamas terrorists continue to also violate the ceasefire agreement. And in terms of aid looting in Gaza, so unfortunately, really unfortunately, especially for the people of Gaza, looting aid by Hamas is nothing new. We have been telling you, journalists, we've been telling the world about this for the last 2 years, that many of these aid trucks have been stopped and looted by Hamas. Their aid has been sold after they've stolen it at exponential prices, of course, making this even more difficult for the people of Gaza to even get their hands on essential items. We've continued to say that Hamas causes their own people to suffer on a daily basis inside of the Gaza Strip. I've seen some horrific videos just over the last week on X, on Twitter, of Hamas, these horrific terrorists beating their own people for unknown reasons, likely reasons that are so minor if there even were to be a reason. This is what they do to their own people, killing people, executing people, torturing people. This is what they do. So in terms of aid being looted, we will continue to bring more aid in. We will uphold our side of the ceasefire agreement. We are bringing hundreds of aid trucks into the Gaza Strip on a daily basis, thousands of aid trucks into the Gaza Strip on a weekly basis. We will continue to do that. Shana Fold from Israel Daily News. What does it mean that Israel has evidence that Hamas knows where the hostage bodies are? What evidence is that? Of course, Shana, we've continued to say that we are aware that Hamas knows where our hostages are located. Hamas took our people captive more than 2 years ago. Now, you don't just lose people that you kidnap. I know you know that too. And in terms of evidence, this is precise intelligence the IDF has and the State of Israel has. And we are demanding for our 8 hostages to be released. Our 8 deceased hostages should have come home nearly 21 days ago. And the intelligence that we have indicates that Hamas knows exactly where the bodies of these deceased hostages are located. We are expecting them to be returned. Matt Bradley from NBC News. Does the Prime Minister's office have a response to comments saying that the Prime Minister and his allies have indicted against the former military advocate general? So in terms of that, I said before, you can go back and listen to the Prime Minister's remarks that he said at the beginning of the government meeting yesterday. Adam Parsons again. Just to be clear, is it correct that anyone who crosses the yellow line is defined as a terrorist and can be shot? If our soldiers deem that this is an imminent threat under the ceasefire agreement, they are allowed to defend themselves. And that is what we've seen example today. Okay, looks like those are all the questions that I have. As always, you can reach out to the Prime Minister's office if you have any other questions. Thanks so much for joining us today.